Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Steinway Enrichment Series today. My name is Edith Vidayani. I'm a pianist and also an educator, and it is my great pleasure to introduce to you our
ngomongnya apa sih? Narasumber for today. Speaker for today. Thank you. To introduce our speaker for today, my good friend. I've known him since I was still in elementary school, middle school. Our musical journey goes way back together. But please welcome Ferdy Talan.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Edith, for that wonderful introduction.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so in general, it's just like I know that a lot of people here probably don't know Ferdy very well because he does not live in Indonesia. So I probably would want to start by asking you to just kind of introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit about your musical journey, what brought you here.
So hello again, and thank you so much for coming. My name is Ferdy. I apologize in advance because I've been away for so long that my Indonesian is kind of kaput. So I'll be talking mostly in English. And kalau misalnya ada yang tidak jelas and you wanted to ask, please, I will try my best to translate it in Indonesian as much as I can. But I started I started in Yamaha. I studied the electone. According to my mom, which I don't remember myself, according to my mom, it all started with a pamphlet from elementary school. I brought home. I wanted to go to do these lessons, and we started with that. We started with electones. I started with the pedals, the organs, and then when she starts seeing some serious seeds within me, I moved to YPM, Yayasan Pendidikan Musik, and then continued over there and that's where I got influence to go and study and continue music at a higher education. And then that's what brought me to New York. I had a stint at Manhattan School of Music, and on my second year, I was offered a position at New York Theater Ballet as a substitute pianist. They were looking for a substitute pianist, and then that continued into a career that spanned about 5 years. So I toured with them, and then started a musical department with them, then became the musical director. So that's how everything started. And then after that, perjalanan hidup, I kind of like, it goes like up and down, because as we know, like music is underappreciated here and there. I know it's a very important aspect of life that's very beneficial for education, continuing education, not just in music itself, but it was a hardship. So I kind of dabbled also in other things like business and but everything I found out the hard way that I cannot go away from music. So everything that was earned from any other financial benefits that I had from another profession, it always goes into a musical project. And then I stayed in New York, and now I'm here because I have a tie. This is where I'm from. I really would love to share the knowledge and my experience that I have garnered all this time, because I truly believe that Indonesia is rich with talents. And I know that this is something that I could contribute. This is something that I feel connected to. I feel connected to the people over here. I came from here. I am Indonesian, so it's something that I wanted to give back and see we as a community strive together and grow together and be able to hopefully champion Western music one day, because I really do believe that this is a very, very fertile soil with a lot of talents.
Nice. Wow. Perfect. Well, it certainly is better than me just reading your bio, so Iya nggak sih? Enakan denger dari orangnya langsung kan daripada ayah ngomongin Ferdy begini begitu gitu kan. Anyway, so let's just dive right into it. So today's topic is Road to Virtuosity.
Yes.
That's a title that you picked, not that I picked.
That's a title that I picked.
Yes. So let's just define virtuosity for a second, because I think banyak orang yang ngomong soal virtuosity itu main cepat atau misalnya tekniknya bagus atau banyak konotasi-konotasi yang virtuosic itu adalah apa gitu kan. Nah, kalau misalnya kita ngomong road to virtuosity because the title is from you, what is your definition of virtuosity?
This is exactly why, and we're starting at the right, like we're starting here at the high point. I kind of want to aku mau merubah stigma that's like but like what people understand as a virtuoso, because it's like Maybelline. Maybe you're born with it, or maybe you're not. And I think like a lot of people believe that it's something that you are born innately within you or not. So, oh yeah, he's a virtuoso. He's not. But actually, I think virtuosity is a deep understanding of the instrument, but not just the instrument here, but you as an instrument. Let's start from there.
Yes, coba tolong diteruskan gitu. Jadi, okay, so you think that virtuosity is the understanding of the piano. Let's start there. What do you mean by understanding the instrument, like this one, the one behind us?
Well, because this is an inanimate object, right? And you make it, you animate it. So whatever you do to this is whatever you do in your daily life. So you do you on the piano. So how you play the piano is going to translate into the sound that you produce is going to translate. It's a holistic approach. Virtuosity is not about just like speed or the many notes that you could play, but how can you evoke sound is a frequency. How could you evoke something in somebody's soul inherently inside them? Like how that's the understanding that we know. And in order to do that, because this is just half of the instrument and the other half is you, if we go back into Newton's third law, every action has a reaction equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. And that's what it is. It's pretty much like virtuosity is really knowing that the piano is not a one-way communication. It's not you doing things to the piano, but your action has a reaction and has a feedback. And I think what's seldomly discussed and talked about in music lessons all over the world is that we need to develop an awareness of this feedback. You need to know the consequences of your actions. And by that, you will be able to measure. If you can measure that, you will be able to do a lot of things with it and mastering it. So mastering the instrument starts from mastering yourself, if that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense to me. I used to remember back when I was still at school, and then my teacher would even like look inside the piano and to see like how much he has to push in order for the hammer to go up.
Correct.
Kalau kayak ngelihat di grand piano kan kelihatan tuh kita mencatnya seberapa, hammernya naiknya seberapa, kita mencat secepat apa, dia naiknya secepat apa gitu loh maksudnya. Jadi the way that we adjust our own playing depends on, karena kan kita unfortunately jadi pianis tuh pianonya nggak bisa dibawa kemana-mana ya.
Correct. Yes. And I think that's it's actually great that you brought that up, because we are not like violinists that we're trained with one instrument that we carry everywhere, unless you're Horowitz that carries his instruments everywhere. But also you need to be able to, and that has a lot to do with your sensitivity to the feedback, because if you can respond to your actions on the piano, you could make music on anything pretty much. I mean, any pianos, not anything.
Not anything. Yes. Tapi itunya memang agree sih, dan I think that definition of changing that definition of virtuosity I think is very important. Karena memang kalau di sini rata-rata kita semua ngelihatnya yang jago tuh adalah yang virtuosic itu biasanya yang mainnya cepat, yang mainnya rapih, yang mainnya gitu kan maksudnya. Tapi actually we're focusing on the wrong things, because you're going into something that seems very measurable, karena kecepatan itu kan bisa di-measure gitu maksudnya. Padahal sebetulnya it's way more than just that.
It's way more than just that. If the focus is to impress someone, then that's kind of like the wrong direction of what virtuosity is. I think it's your ability to express is what's important. And you impress people by what you express. It's not the other way around. Because there's a lot of players, there's a lot of fantastic players, and I think more and more people are able to translate what it is for themselves, what it is playing the piano, the feedback, all of these awareness. But I think the difference between a virtuoso and a non-virtuoso in a traditional sense is a virtuoso player is someone who could translate it for themselves. And they're able to do that. And then, if you are able to do that in one way, then you have to develop, what you need to do is you develop your musicianship. But it's really, it's not a show off for me at least. It's not the kind of things that you wanted to show off, like, oh, this is what I could do with the instrument. I think that's why a lot of the time I tend to focus on sound production, because that's what you produce. Like, this is what you do on the piano produces a sound, and that's the frequency that reaches your heart, your soul, your physical body, and your mind.
Right. The way that I maybe conclude a tiny bit about this is that yes, of course you have to be able. I mean, ini kan kita ngomongnya beyond ya. Maksudnya kita bukan kalau udah express terus berantakan nggak apa-apa, ya nggak juga gitu loh maksudnya. Jadi harus udah mainnya udah. You have to have some sort of a technical
freedom.
Yes, that's like financial freedom.
Like financial freedom. That's like, okay, since I opened that can of worms, there's also a misconception about, fortunately we have language, right? Like, so for language can help us describe things. Unfortunately, we also have language, because language is very subjective. So one word can mean a completely different thing for each and every one of you. So belum tentu pesannya yang sampai itu exactly what we are trying to say. And so I think that's the bridging, that's where the gap needs to be bridged between instructions and application. And I think that's the only way that could be helped is by curiosity, because this is not a one size fit all form. Like, you can't do, okay, let's try this clothes for you. It's a different style. Then it's not an expression. That's just apa namanya?
Cetakan.
Correct, but it's more of a, I'm losing words over here. But it's more of an imposition.
Yeah.
Yes, you're imposing something that might not work for you. So I think, like, I go bonkers if somebody says, like, oh, but your hands are not like this, but your things are not like this, but your are not like that. Like, we're physically different, spiritually too, mentally too. The way that we learn as an individual, each of us are totally different to one another, and it's and a teacher will be able to kind of guide. If we were a horse and somebody guide us to a water, nobody could make us drink. Like, you need to drink yourself. So and that's an initiative that I don't think is promoted well enough. And that's what I meant about like curiosity-based learning. So you're not just like, oh, this format, if I do this scale 10 times and repeat it the same way, I will be able to improve. No, you're just gonna get the things that you do. You get what you repeat. So repetition is really important in terms of building your skills, but it really matters what you repeat.
Awareness, I guess.
Yes, it's awareness.
Speaking about that, actually, can you tell us a tiny bit about the way that you figured out your own path towards your definition of virtuosity?
There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of frustration because I think the first thing that I kind of have to peel, the first layer of onion that I have to peel is all these things that have been imposed to me. Because with this imposition came limitation. then you start believing that, this is the only thing that you could do. So if you're stubborn enough, and thankfully I am stubborn, it's a black and white quality that I kind of have to play with. It's a great thing, but it also can be a pitfall for you, like a curse. But I'm stubborn. I think like there's more to. I'm always curious and stubborn to say there's more to this. There's more to that. There's more. I need to be able to find like what is the missing link for me in order for me to do that, because I'm also a person, an individual that says like, if he could do that, I can do that better. But
Well,
that helps.
That's the attitude.
Yes, that has to be kind of like the attitude. You shoot for the you shoot for the moon, and then if not, you land amongst the stars. Like I do believe in that.
But I do agree with this idea, because I think it's a never-ending process too. I feel like as
learning
you
doesn't have a finish line.
Right.
It's like I'm still learning for everybody. I'm still learning I'm learning from the audience, like because like the reactions of the audience, for example, or I'm learning for every student and every encounter, intellectual encounters that I found. And I'm learning, like I'm also learning, and I think I don't teach one-on-one as much. That's how I started Joy of Practicing, because I wanted to try to bring this into a wider audience, a wider reach, so they could help. Hopefully, it will help translate it for themselves. But that's I feel envious about you, for example, who like teach one-on-one, because like by teaching you learn so much by teaching somebody. It's like, oh, cool, like, oh, cool.
oh, this works. Oh, that doesn't work.
Yes.
Oh,
correct.
most of it doesn't work.
Yes.
Well, usually iya kan kita setiap kali kan apa namanya with one case, and then there's another case and another case, and then I when you say this type of things, it reminds me of when I was still in school, and then my teacher fixed my problem in like 5 seconds. I've been practicing trying to figure things out for like such a long time, and somehow I still cannot figure it out. And then when I go to lesson, and then he's just like 5 seconds, and then it's fixed. And then his idea of saying I just live longer than you.
Yes, absolutely. You remember, that reminds me of a story of Picasso. Some woman in a bar wanted him to draw something, and he draws an exquisite, I think it was a rhino or a hippo, on a piece of napkins. But like when she asked for it, he didn't give it to her, because he said like, no, I'm not gonna give this for you for free. But it's just a doodle that you did for like 5 minutes, yeah. But it took many years for him to be able to do that doodle in 5 minutes. So experience, yes, experience matter. And I think the difference between a cultivated learner and the stages of the level of experience between a teacher and student in a classroom. So for example, like you came in and he fixed it in 5 minutes, is the listening. The quality of the listening is completely different. Because again, I do believe that every technical problem is a musical problem.
That I agree. You mentioned a little bit earlier about the joy of practicing, and I think not only that it is a name,
Yep.
but I think it's also something that you believe in, like practicing should bring
joy. It should be joyful. I mean, I also thank you for my mother, who kind of continued to push me. It's like, have you practice? If you don't practice, you cannot go to the mall. You cannot hang out with your friends. Like, you should do this, you should do that. So thanks. I think my mother has a great contribution in that, because as a young kid, I'm still a young kid, by the way. As a young kid,
We're all young.
Yes,
What are you talking
very,
about?
very young. As a young person, I still don't want it to be, responsibility is a foreign concept, and so that was like, yeah, you still have to put in the hours. But if it's something that's imposed on you, there's very little chance of it becoming joyful. And I think people are saying like, I quit music because I have to practice for hours. I don't want to do that, and I want to cage myself to do that. But I think, like, if you turn the head around And if you put a different connotation into it, it would be something different, because practicing is pretty much ngakalin diri sendiri. Jadi how do you intercept yourself? How do you create habits? Like first of all, how do you get to know yourself? What are your tendencies? What do you usually tend to do? How do you react? And by knowing that, you kind of like create like contraception that would help you to build a healthy habit, because we all cannot be just like good or just bad. There's yin and yang. There's a little bit in little bit in everything, and I think that's what makes humanity and human being very exciting. And so those are like, it's sacred. So that's why practicing for me is sacred, because it's an opportunity to commune with yourself. It's an opportunity to say, hey, this is my limitation, but I wanted to try to break it. Hey, you could do much more than that. Like, it's something that and nobody else can give it to you. And so if you master these in the practice room, and it's a joyful activity. I mean, I have like, I do side gigs in business and finance and other means of like making money, because I have to continuously fund my musical projects. Yes, the musical projects, and for making content for joy of practicing. But this is something that I wanted to share, that like, if there's Julia Childs come up with joy of cooking, why can't we come up with joy of practicing? Because it really is. I love days where I could practice the whole day, when I don't have to interact with other human beings. I mean, I'm a social being. I love interacting with human beings. But I think like, that time alone that I spend in the practice room figuring out like things for myself, and because it's in the form of piano playing, and I play for friends, I play in concert, hopefully it inspires people. But that's what got me kind of like through COVID. Otherwise, like, I'd go crazy. A lot of people go crazy during COVID because like they don't know what else to do. But I'm just like, I have all the time to practice. And joy of practicing has kind of like been in the making for over a decade. And COVID kind of gave that chance for me to give birth to that and share it with all of you.
I think a lot of people also forget that it's play the piano, not.
I know which word that you're
It's
going
like the play,
I have to
the
be
play
clear.
part. It should bring some sort of a joy. It should bring a fun activity. It should be seen as a fun activity instead of. It's not like
Correct.
work the piano. It's play.
Correct.
The piano. I think that also is a lot of people always forget
Correct.
the play part of it.
Yes. Correct.
And by playing, that means that you can make mistakes and you can try to fix it and all of those type of stuff. It should not be seen as
A regime.
right. Exactly. I think it's less of a strict
Regimen.
duty.
Yes.
And it should be seen more as a process. It should be seen more as a development for yourself, I think.
Correct. Yes. Yes. You develop, and the instrument will develop with you. Again, this is an inanimate object that you make alive. Like, it responds to your touch. That's why one piano can sound completely different under different hands, and because it's a different spirit and a different mind and different hands that are producing the sound.
Yes. Okay. So speaking about practicing, you said that you like practicing. I would assume that you already have tried so many ways of practicing. But what is the most rewarding to you? What type of practice is the most rewarding to you? What do you think is the most effective practicing? How do you get there and all of those? Because sometimes I think like not only just for our students, but also for ourselves. Just like what is the most biggest bang for your buck type of practicing?
So I found out, and only recently that I found out, that the biggest bang for the buck for me for practicing is not try to deny what my ear wants and what my body wants during that day. So I'm a very scattered person. I have 18 windows in my computer that are open, or maybe more. So I'm not very precise person in terms of like, if I wanted to do this, then I don't make schedules. Like, so for example, I have to practice this section of one piece and that section of one piece, or I have to do this technical things. I'm like practicing octaves or practicing thirds. Like I don't do that, and I don't plan it. Usually when I wake up, I have something in my ear that I'm like, maybe I work on last week, and then it's like, that's an aha moment. I'm like, so there's always music in my head 24/7, and that's also like, you know, practicing doesn't really have to do, if going back into every technical problem is a musical problem, practicing doesn't have to happen on the instrument. Because like, you know, so for example, right now I have a Schubert in my head that I'm like, how do you group it? Like, where am I stuck? Like, what is the general movement and the general articulation that I wanted to do? I'm like, I think, so for example, I'm like, let me give you an example. Like here is one thing that, because it is in my head right now. I'll keep this on. It's this Schubert impromptu. So you could do it many ways, for example, right? But for me, the way that my physicality works and the way that I would work that out is I group it this way. So some people could do it this way. It's very different than. Those are things that you can play and you can play with on the piano. So those are the kind of things that I'm practicing. And am I sensitive enough to produce the right sound? Like, so for example, like we wake up with a different body every day. Yeah, it depends on the activity from the day before. It depends on if you're sleeping on your bed, if you're sleeping in a hotel, if you're sleeping somewhere else, and then your neck gets a little bit painful, or like there's like a little bit of stiffness in your arm, there's a little bit of stiffness in your butt. It's like, yeah, that all, it's like, you know, our body is a system. It's really. It really connects one to another. So that's also a part of what I practice, is that if my body physical condition is like this today, then how does it react? Because if you can master that, and if you can be open to that idea, then you know, dealing with different instrument, it doesn't become so scary, because you yourself, as the half part of the instrument, is also different every day. Physically, emotionally, mentally. So yeah, that's one example that I could give.
No, but I think it's true, because I think the point of practice is to be able to achieve. Pernah nggak sih berasa kalau misalnya kita latihan terus kayak hari ini bagus nih, tapi besok terus kayak terus besoknya lagi terus kayak, oh kayaknya rada lumayan. Oh tapi ini, I think the point of practice is to be able to create that kind of awareness so that you can produce something consistent.
Consistency, yes. Like consistency, no matter what the outside circumstances, no matter what the external factor is, like how can you produce that consistency? But that also starts by being not so hard on yourself. That you know, I'm like, what is wrong with me? I can do this perfectly yesterday. Like, you know, what is wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. It's just a different day. It's like, you know, it really starts from that. So cultivating this is why it becomes so joyful and it becomes so sacred, because you're building a relationship with yourself. And therefore eventually the instrument. It's like, but the first and foremost is you who animate this object.
What do you think? I think out of this, I think it will be nice for us to talk also from the other side. Is what do you think I mean, you mentioned something about being too hard on yourself, but maybe besides that, what do you think is the other mistakes that usually people make during practice?
Following a recipe, following an instruction verbatim. That's the other pitfall. Because again, it's a language, right? This is a means of communication. Sometimes, like, your teacher would prescribe you something, and in the hopes that you would try to dismantle them and you would try to make sense of it for yourself. So I think that's really the other pitfall, because there's no one format. I'm like, okay, I don't want to vindicate anything for example, but rhythm practicing. For me, it doesn't work that well, because it becomes mechanical and becomes motoric. So you're only practicing your muscles. There's no awareness about that. And so I think that if you could do it once in a while, but I think it should start a curiosity within you. Okay, why was I prescribed this? What did my teacher mean by me doing that? It's not like doing it 100 times and then coming to a lesson the next time and be like, I can do this. Like, that it's really not about that at all. But like, oh, what is the intention of him or her? Are they giving me this this instruction, this recipe? What does it do? And so I think, like, that's a really important discussion that sometimes, like, being left out in the lesson room about that. Like, what's the objective? Like, not just the finished product itself. Like, yes, because we've heard, like, we all have our idols. We listen to other recordings. There's references for the pieces that we are practicing and or we are playing, but it's the final goal we know. But then, like, we need to understand that there are steps of, like, going there. So today's step is like, what is the goal of today's step? Like, what does that exercise needed me to be aware of? That's the one thing. Like, because I think the most dangerous thing is mindless repetition. That's if you just, like, repeat whatever, you get exactly what you repeat. So if you're only repeating and your mind is like, what am I gonna have for lunch? Ooh, like, yesterday's noodle is very delicious, but and you just do it motorically, and you just you get mechanical playing. That's what you get, because you're practicing the mechanics of it without imbuing any awareness to it.
That's usually lead to injuries.
Correct. That usually leads to injuries. I think injuries comes from unawareness, and injuries come from beating down the piano instead of playing with it, and you're not interacting with it. I think injuries are self-inflicted. You get injured because you don't listen to what the piano is saying to you. I mean, okay, that's far-fetched. More practical is that you're not taking in the impact of your action and what it brings back to you, the feedback of the piano. And that's the injury. And most injuries happens when you play at the bottom of the key bed, because Mozart and Debussy famously say that the music is the silence in between, and he's absolutely correct, because there's a far distance between the surface of the key and the bottom of the key. And believe me or not, the point of sound is very, very close to the surface. Like, see, I don't have to go all the way to the bottom of the key in order to produce that sound. And dynamics is just the speed of the key. If I enter slower, then the action of the hammer is going to be slower into the string. But the music happens you don't need to move all the way into the bottom of the key, because that's a hard path. And 1 millimeter is very, very, it translates into a lot of distance in the piano. So if you go however many millimeters that there is between the surface of the piano and the bottom of the key bed is where you play, that's the wealth that you could create in terms of your sound production. That's how you are able to differentiate instruments. That's how you produce different colors. That's how you produce different paths, different palettes. You know, so between that and then how much surface do you use on your fingers? So you know, piano playing is not just that. That's like a Halloween costume for a cat woman or a cat lady. But like all these fleshy parts like are very usable, and because it really depends. The sound that you produce really depends on how much surface of the fingers you use to activate the key. Like so that's where things are becomes very, very interesting, because then you're not just like doing. That usually leads to injury.
Yes. Oh, that's my turn. Okay, so repetition is one thing. Not taking account of what's happening is another thing. I guess the answer to healthy practicing is a lot of awareness.
A lot of awareness, but then I know that there are some practical things that you could do to it. So, for example, enjoy your practicing. I talked a lot about Bermuda Triangle. That's just the way that I explain things, because okay, so if you found a prodigy or said virtuoso, a young person that's a virtuoso, sometimes they could play with just two fingers, 1 2 1 2 1 2. Everything can be played with just like 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, because if you break it down, a single note just means a single note, but it becomes a relationship when there's another note to it. So that's the smallest syllable, for example, in words. Like there's the connection of two notes, right? That's. But usually, like so, for example, in an Alberti bass, you have you need to figure out. You need to break down the smallest relationship first, which is the two notes. Yeah, or you could do. But then, how you link those change are that there's always a thruple in the couple. In the couple of the notes. So yeah, these notes, they like to have affairs with other notes. So so it's like, for example, like an Alberti bass, then like it always comes back. If there is a coming back into that note, usually, okay, this is a practical thing. Usually it moves onto a different plane, so you don't play it on the same place, because then you get that. But if you move in or you move out, that becomes like, so your effort doesn't come out in the sound, because you don't want something that sounds so effortful. It's like you want everything, like piano playing should feel. For me, piano playing feels very sensual, because it's touch. You're touching this. This is your friend. And it should feel like nothing. If you start feeling laborious about something, something needs to be investigated. There's usually, you go too deep on one note. That's why it takes time for you to come out, and you in any problems that if some people come to me and say, I cannot do this runs, I cannot do that run, like this is so difficult for me. I usually will just like point out this. You went too deep over there. Obviously, yeah. Then because when you go too deep, then you have to move your whole unit on your arm. This is a big bone, and it takes time. And it takes effort to move it. And so when you're having difficulties on a runs or a technical difficulty, usually there's only one culprit of the note, where you're staying too long, where you're like, oh, I'm supposed to do that, like where you group it not in a sensible way that will make that helps you play it effortlessly.
Yes. I agree with that. And then in a lot of ways also, back to the idea of actually thinking about it. It's not only just the way that you play it over here, but it's also the way that you think about how do you group the notes, what is the best type of fingerings.
Correct. Yes, your
How do you
fingerings.
group things? How do
Yes.
you do this? What is the tendency of each fingers? Like if you turn which way and this way, sometimes it can
Right.
make or break it. Another thing too is I feel like the way that you mentioned it is like awareness of how much units of your hands is actually being used at any particular moment. Because
Yes.
if let's say that for example like you're playing Mozart, technically you don't have to go all the way to your shoulder like to because it's not something that's practical to do over there. And then again, for example, if you play Mozart and then you use like a lot of wrist like weight movements, of course, and then
Out
you
of character, yes.
right, and then you wonder why your runs are not even.
Right. Yes.
Then
I'm like.
it doesn't make any sense because
Yes.
then why would you do that?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Exactly. It's like putting an ice cream on a pan and then turning on the fire, and it's like, why does it melt? Those are like practical things like that. And you need to understand. For me, the best friend in your practicing is your ears and gravity. If you rely on gravity, you don't have to do much. So, for example, one example of denying gravity is pushing your elbows out. So, for example, this is I come across into the top one technique, which deals with a lot of injury.
Injuries,
And
yes.
then this is also something that I learned from them, that my teacher from the used to say that you have to think about yourself as a T-Rex. You see T-Rex have really small hands, and their elbows are kind of like clamped to the side, because this is your weight point. There's 3 weight points. There's your femur, your sit bone, and your elbow and your shoulders. So those 3, when any of those goes up, that means you're working 3 times as hard. You're not letting gravity help you.
That's interesting. I never think about that, but yes.
There you go. Food for thought.
No. I mean, we all know that the shoulder should not go up. We
Yes.
all know that. I call it chicken, just
Yeah,
because
that-
it's too much chicken.
Yeah, too much chicken. Yes.
Too much
chicken wings.
Too much chicken. But yeah, I mean, even turning. Like sometimes kids, especially younger students, would like when they turn and then they go so high for no good reason. I think it's just an extra movement that they can just like this.
Correct.
Should be so much more efficient and so much faster.
Okay, I
Instead of,
never
like-
say never, but this is one example, because
That you
there's
would
never, but like you never turn over or under your hand. There's no such thing as that. So if you're turning, because let me explain to you why. When you're turning over your hand, you need to, you're stuck here, because you have to have a pivot point to turn over or under your hand. And playing the piano is like pointillism. You create the lines by making these little dots. So every movement is finished. And then you move. I'm exaggerating and playing it staccato, but essentially, all piano playing, you're playing everything staccato. And staccato, okay, again, language, right? Like the staccato, in what kind of staccato? Staccato has so many different meanings, but staccato is pretty much just the shortening of the sound. Like, when do you finish? And that's why I think, like, it's not. I like to think about it as flicking more, because pressing are 2 movements. You have to press and you have to depress. So, and that has a lot to do with these movements. And where you're flicking is you're finished. It's always finished, and then you move after. So that's why what happens in between the surface and the key bed, and also what happens between the sound of the notes. You move in between. You never put your pivot over there. I finish this first before I go there. So every movement has to be finished, is what I'm saying.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's also back to that idea of awareness. I feel like when we're talking about this type of things, I think what you said was very important. It's like vocabulary is everything, because I feel like to be able to verbally express that, I think, is quite important.
Yes.
So that you don't get the wrong idea.
Yes. So you have to kind of pick and choose. So for example, when I'm doing the scripts for Joy of Practicing, I usually have many drafts, and I usually tweak them in terms of like wording, because I do not want to make a suggestion that might be misconstrued. And you know, sometimes like that takes a while. And also my tendency is to kind of like work it, rework it. And I have to remember also, every day is different. If today I understand it differently, tomorrow I'm going to understand it differently. You know, those are the things, like sometimes like you just have to kind of like push it up there. And so I think that's why it's a different thing. Joy of Practicing is a platform for me to be able to reach more audience, but it's really important for you to have a teacher that you trust, a teacher that can supervise you in your journey and say like, hey, you're going a little bit too far right, you're going to a little bit too far left, like let's go here, let's go there. And I think that's much more healthy than like saying that, you know, do this 10 times or do this 15 times or do that 2 times, because that, you know, it doesn't really, that's neither here nor there.
Right. Back in the days, someone told me, when you repeat things and you don't repeat it correctly, the things that you repeat becomes your habit.
Yes, yes.
And then if you repeat it 10 times and you don't play it well 8 times and you only played it well on the 9th and the 10th, if you play it again on the 11th time...
So that's the pitfall. So if you repeat something badly 8 times and then the 9th and the 10th you figure out, and then you go back, then what you're reaffirming is the 8 times that you're wrong.
Right.
But when you stop and you say, why is the 9th time or the 10th time correct? If you spend the time to kind of like figure it out, like what is it that makes the 9th repetition or the 10th repetition works, and stop, your body is very intelligent. And I think like, you know, people give very little credit to themselves. Your body knows what to do. Your body remembers childhood trauma from like 3 years old. It remembers. It does. It does really remember. So it doesn't matter if you're repeating it. Like that's the difference between unaware practicing and aware and awareness. Because you became unaware when you practice, when you repeat 8 times
the wrong way.
not correctly, and then you 2 times you get it right, and then you go back, and then okay, this is the most also another danger, and hopefully it becomes a tip. It's like, I did it to, that's wonderful. That works. Let me try again to see if I have it. Like that's the most dangerous thing, because like usually you go back to the old self, like, because again, like this 8 habits also already, this 8 incorrect repetition have already been internalized in you, and so you're just like making that stronger.
Yes. So I think that goes to say, because when I was younger, at least in our generation, I guess repetition is the
way to
it's the way to do it. It was a way for them to do it without this idea of awareness. I think the more that we talk about the technical approach, how you approach the keyboard and all of those type of stuff, when you create this awareness, that is the true, that's how you get consistency.
Okay,
because if
I wanted
not,
to touch on 2 subjects now that you bring it to me. Like there's misconception of freedom and a misconception of discipline. Discipline doesn't mean that you repeat things over and over and over again. Again, we've already established that what you repeat matters. You get what you repeat. And discipline is more to me about like showing up each day consistently, no matter what your condition is. No matter, like, you know, yesterday I was Horowitz, today I was like, but, and then like, oh no, I don't wanna do that. Like that's where discipline comes in. Discipline is like taking it on a daily basis, like, today I am this. So what can I do, or what can I bring to myself that would be productive? And also now the misconception of freedom, the misconception of control, I'm sorry. Control is actually like freedom, because without discipline and without control, you don't have this freedom, right? But control are a lot of the times being interpreted as a prison. Control is a tight dictatorial grip on but it's not that. You're in control when you have the discipline. Control is actually like freedom. Like, you won't get financial freedom without having a financial discipline. It's not. If you and this is the same exact concept that happens on the piano. And so this is why I think, like, this kind of education is really important. This is my mission and vision to share it to as much people as I can, to get as much people as I can, because we are being undervalued as musicians, as teachers, but this is a wealth of knowledge that can translate into all areas of your life. So one of the other things that my teacher used to say was that, if you want to do things well, do like menial stuff. Wash dishes well. Know what you do, the temperature of the water when you're washing dishes. Or like, that some like do little things that sometimes like we don't really use our intelligent brain, our active part of the brain. Do it well. Try to do it well. And then it can also elevate into communicate well. Like being curious about like what was what was the impact of my sentence, or like of what that interaction is? Did I really get what I set out to do or not? Like, and if not, like, what can I improve? Like, really do that. Make your bed well. Because a lot of the times, like, people are unaware, and that's how you lose cell phones, you lose things, and because you're going through life kind of like floating in clouds. And this is something that can help plant your foot in the ground.
Okay. I'm just going through my list here. No, it's true. And then I think like mastering instrument or mastering music or like learning about this type of things is not only just for the sake of the art itself, but also for other parts of your life. Just like us, like, right, teachers, it's just like not all of our students are going to be professional pianists. It's just like we're trying to get them to do to get certain values, I guess, out of it. To get certain
values, to get quality. Like you build quality. It translates into everything in your life. Really, it does translate into everything of your in your life. So if you are so used and you build a habit to do everything with quality, then it translates to everything. It just becomes your standard way of operating, and that's the goal. To keep on elevating that. Like, there's no ceiling for that. You can continuously improve the quality of how you do things, the quality of how you say things. That all are, and this is like one of the things why I think practicing is joyful, because the piano doesn't talk back. It gives you feedback, but the piano doesn't talk back. People talk back. So it's a completely different thing. Like, I think the voices in your head talk back to you, and that's what you need to, that's kind of like one thing that you have to reconcile. Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, so speaking about the instrument itself, I guess now that today we have this wonderful place with Steinway, what do you think is the importance of the piano itself? Like, how do you think the importance of the instrument, like having a good instrument,
I like practicing on bad pianos because it gives me challenge. It gives me like, this is how do I make beautiful sound? Because even bad pianos will be able to make beautiful sound. I mean, like, of course there's a certain limitation into like what kind of beautiful sound that they could make. But I do like to practice on bad instruments because it's a or not so great instrument. They're
Right.
not bad.
Probably
bad
not
instrument.
completely bad.
Yes, not
Like if it's completely
bad.
bad, then I think it's
Then
kind
you
of like
get frustrated.
yes,
Like so, for
moot
example,
point.
like if you just keep on going into the key bed, the instrument, and it doesn't follow your hand, it doesn't bounce back, it doesn't give you the buoyancy. Then yes, that can tend to give you injuries and frustration. But challenging instrument is another thing, because like you also, it's not as a, if you perform on many different pianos, you're not going to get
Great pianos all
beautiful
the time.
instruments, yes, all the time. And so if you can find a way of like saying to you, oh, so I need to be, how do you need to behave with different instrument, is another thing that needs to be cultivated in your daily practice.
No, I completely agree. Although, as you said before, your ears should not settle.
Your ears should not settle. There's a major discrepancy between hearing and listening, because a duck can hear. You hear background noises, it's here. Active listening is it's a different thing, you know. And this will help many politicians, for example, many negotiators, because then you start to have a sensitivity of listening in between the lines. What do people mean? With the intonations that symbolize emotions, like what does that mean? Because a lot of the times people put so many masks on a daily. Me too. I mean, like that's just unfortunately the way society works and the way that humanity works. Like it's uncool to be vulnerable right now. Whereas I think like it's vulnerability is so powerful, and that's something that you could also cultivate in your daily practice. But listening, attentive listening, active listening is something that could go a long way, not just in the practice room and your music making in the piano. It could help you conquer the world maybe one day, if that's what you really want to do. But
yeah, I do agree. I think it's those type of transferable skills, right?
correct.
What you learn from music actually applies to other things
Yes.
in life.
Because again, you do you on the piano. You do who you are on the piano. And that, yeah, practicing is not just like practicing about the sound that you produce, but you also practice who you are. Like keep elevating yourself.
Okay. I think because we've been talking for an hour, can you believe it?
Oh, wow. This has been fun. I hope you guys are having fun too and getting something from it.
So, we will close later on, but I do want to open it to our friends here.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions? Do you guys have any discussion, things that maybe something that you want to ask more, maybe something that you want to share, maybe something that, yeah.
Or something that you don't agree, or something
Right.
that you're like, oh, I don't understand what he's saying about like these things. It's just like, is there any questions? Is there any?
Yes. If not, then we can just keep on talking. But
Yeah.
I want to open it up to you guys first.
Okay, thank you, Miss, and thank you, sir. So today, I just want to ask about how we develop like the virtuosity since a kid. I mean, like there are so many kids like just doing the repetition, and then can you pay attention to this one? No, I want to repeat from the first one. They just go straightly from the beginning. I mean, like how can we negotiate with the kids in a younger age? And I mean, like maybe adolescents or something you beyond that age, because they have the ego to try to prove that I can play like this. I don't care about you, like that one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I understand exactly what you mean, but I also, a lot of the time that has to do with how the neuro link, how they learn and what it means for them. So for example, if I'm practicing about a structure of a piece, I can't do it from the middle, because I need to
Yes.
know where it came from, how it develops, and how eventually it would close. So I think it has a lot to do with that. And usually what they say is that what they're saying. I'm just translating just from the little bits that I don't know the personal situation. Usually what they're saying is that I lost myself somewhere in the path and I wanted to catch that. That's why I wanted to start from the beginning, because up to a certain point it was okay, but then it started to derail. I do not know where I am. I lose control. So that's not what I was practicing. I wanted to show you that I could do something better. I wanted to show you what I could do, what I found in the practice room. So that's the translation for them saying like, where is the missing point? Where are you? So sometimes like you could help by saying like, this is where you start losing it. And so let's shine a light on that few measures. Like what is it? Was it your concentration? Was it a note? Was it a position that makes it awkward? Those are the things that can trigger curiosity in that situation. And then another thing that you could do if you still have like a stubborn kid or a stubborn student that can't, because sometimes like kids cannot express what they have like certain verbiage and like limited vocabulary, is just to promote how do you fall in love with this instrument? Like what happens? How to build like a relationship with this instrument? That's like that. It doesn't really matter, because like obviously if they're maunya dari depan gitu, and then ngulang lagi dari depan, mau ngulang lagi dari depan, yaudah jangan dilawan, don't fight it. That's just their habit. So how could you mitigate that like in the middle? I'm just like, okay, let's start again from the beginning. Because then if you start like, oh, why do you start again from the beginning? If you do that, then it becomes a different focus, right? It becomes like you're saying your way of learning is wrong. But like this is how I used to. But like if you pick on the curiosity, it's like, what made you do that? Like what is it that you're trying to tell that I'm not getting of your behavior? Because like you sometimes like this is also has a lot to do with being kind with everybody that you meet on the street, because you don't know where they came from. Somebody might have just like passed away, their family, and then you have an interaction with them, and then you have something that's irrational, right? Like what you perceive as irrational, but it's an expression. It's again, it is an expression. So it's just really not. It's not about impressing. It's about expressing. So that will change the dynamic. I hope does that answer the kind of? Yes.
Yes, thank you.
I think also just from a more practical standpoint, I think the idea is to get them to understand that they need to be competent at something. The reason why they sometimes, biasanya kan kalau kayak gitu kan suka salah gitu kan, tapi terus begitu mereka mau ngulangnya yang mereka biasanya nggak salah gitu kan. Tapi kan yang salah ini harus dibenerin gitu kan istilahnya. Jadi it's to pique at their curiosity in order for them to be competent. Jadi biasanya kalau kayak gitu, kalau my personal strategy is to make it into a game and challenge them.
Yeah, that's always good. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then so the idea of it is just like, kenapa yang ini kira-kira kenapa ya nggak bisa? Most of the time they don't know the issue.
Correct.
They tried,
yes,
and it did not work.
Right.
Especially with younger ones, it's always about hand position. Either jarinya kependekan jadi kurang masuk. Kalau udah masuk bunyi. Ntar kalau nggak masuk nggak bunyi gitu kan. Tapi kan it's actually a very quick fix sebetulnya yang kita bisa kasih ke mereka, tapi lewat jalan yang sifatnya kalau ini begini gimana, kalau itu begitu gimana, kalau ini begini gimana. So when they understand that there is a certain particular very specific things that they can do,
yes,
in order for them to be able to nail it, kemungkinan adalah mereka akan ngelakuin itu. Karena
yes,
kalau ada jalan yang mulus kenapa harus pakai jalan yang bolong gitu kan istilahnya.
Correct. Yes.
Because
yeah,
I think ultimately everyone wants to succeed. I don't
Yes.
think that there's anyone that wants to go somewhere and just like, let me just fail gitu kan, kayak nggak ada gitu loh maksudnya.
Well, that's a lot of it to do. It's like don't be too hard on yourself, because like a lot of people sometimes use it as a crutch.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
and then it's like, see, I can't do it, See, this is like, and that goes into another psychological problem. But like, that's also like something that day to day. See, this is why I think it's really sad that music educators are undervalued, because we're teaching them things that as they spend so little time with their parents. You go to school, you spend time with your teacher, you spend time with you guys in the classroom and in piano. Like, we're giving seeds for them to succeed in life. I mean, like, yes, parents, because they see them every day, every night, and they see their habits, they start imitating that. But this is valuable life lessons that are supposed to, there needs to be a movement so that music teachers and music educators are more valued. It's because of this. It's yes.
Yes, I agree. We should be valued more. Anyway, but yeah, I think it's that idea of setting competency and setting standards for themselves. I think it's really difficult, as you said, when it's an imposition. Kalau kita yang minta, kalau kita yang maksa, itu biasanya akan jadi jauh lebih susah daripada kalau mereka punya keinginan sendiri untuk achieve sesuatu gitu kan.
Criticism is not my way of doing things. I mean, like, you always have to build, like, there's constructive criticism and there's deconstructive criticism, of course, but like taking criticism is hard. I can't even take criticism sometimes as an adult, like, but moreover as a kid, because I think that's why all kids come out really pure. That's why kids are so fun. They're like, they don't have any inhibitions, and then their parents and their teachers say no, and every time it's and it goes into their body. So we are in a day and age where gentle parenting is being explored as another way from like a very yes, I mean dictatorial regime, but it's like, this is like so. Yeah, but it's like making it into a game and challenging them. It's like, let's find out like why you behave a certain way. Is much better and more effective for younger people in terms instead of like criticism, harsh criticism.
Yeah. Any other questions? Or is there a follow up misalnya dari yang tadi atau ini? All good. But I think that's, speaking about virtuosity, I think when you're young, setting standards for yourself is important. Like, wanting to push yourself, but knowing like how a certain threshold, kayak nggak boleh asal-asalannya itu loh kayaknya kalau untuk anak-anak yang masih rada kecil ya. As you go older, as they also develop psychologically and also intellectually, I think it's also important for them to start developing that awareness.
Yes.
Because kalau anak-anak kayaknya disuruh aware nggak bisa sih.
So it's just I didn't understand it. I mean, like conceptually, like they do it. I think that's why this is why I say this our country and our culture is very rich, because people automatically does it when it's already happening organically, when your body is organically doing it naturally. Then sometimes it backfires when you put too many contexts onto it. Because then it becomes like you're kind of like shining a magnifying glass onto a problem that's originally not there. Like with kids, it's also the same thing. Like I think you need to understand their style and their curiosity. How do they learn? Like are they some kids may need some a little bit more harder structure like but not all of them are like that, but it's just like finding out what the style of learning and their curiosity is much more beneficial and it's also more educative for us as an educator,
right? And it also makes it more interesting just because each student that we meet is always a tiny bit different. I have one student just like recently that plays everything very legato.
Like yes,
and do you want to know like lengket?
Yeah.
Gitu loh maksudnya. Kayak disuruh nggak lengket tuh kayak nggak bisa gitu.
Yeah.
Tapi tau nggak ternyata sebetulnya kenapa?
Why?
Karena dia takut dia mainnya salah.
Yeah, it's an insecurity. I was just going to say
Jadi-
that he doesn't want to get away from the keyboard because he doesn't want to make any mistake.
Exactly.
That's another
Problemnya itu.
thing.
Jadi ketika dia ditutup matanya, ayo coba main kalau misalnya kamu ditutup matanya, tahu nggak ininya di mana? Tahu. And then confidence goes up. Ketika confidence goes up, mainnya nggak lengket.
But that's a wonderful thing because not a lot of the times like people are so disconnected with the instrument. Like he's super connected, but it's fear-based connection, right?
Exactly.
Like so, but I assume it was a he. He or she were like super connected to the instrument that it becomes a crutch. But like a lot of the times, many pianists or piano player are not in touch with the instrument at all. And that's the one what I say about like, you know, if you just like doing one, that's like a one-way communication.
Any other thoughts, questions, observations, sharing sessions? But there are a lot of those type of things in Indo. Like I think part of what makes being a teacher so interesting is also trying to figure out all of this type of connections with the students. It's
Right.
like what gets them to be that way, what gets them to be this
Yeah,
way.
that's why you learn so much more from your student teaching. Actually, it's quite an enriching experience too, and a big, huge responsibility. Because,
Okay, so because we'll keep on going for a little bit. Do you have any particular if you have to like think about one thing that is healthy in terms of practice, what would you suggest? Like someone, this is the way that you should cultivate healthy practicing or healthy playing. What would be the first thing that comes to your mind?
know your limits. So know when to walk away. Understand that a problem sometimes takes time to get resolved. So you are not going to achieve, you're not gonna climb Kilimanjaro in one day. So when you're already kapantok, when you're already at the head of at the top of the limit, like know when to walk away, know what to give yourself breaks. Some people, we can only concentrate like 10 to 15 minutes on like really hyper focus, and I think like that's a good deal to practice a little bit of the music, and then you leave it. You do, your body really do remember, and it's not like you know, don't try to push and don't try to prove to yourself that udah masuk nih, this is already I got it, because yeah, maybe sometimes like you physically got it but conceptually you don't get it. Then you can work on it, like have some coffee, take some walks. Tchaikovsky takes like 8 to 10 walks a day, like. Yeah, so it's like that's refreshing. But know your limits and know when to walk away, because like every curve, it's like there's a peak, and then after that it kind of like goes down. So if you can catch yourself like almost to the peak, or like sometimes like on the way down, but if you can catch yourself and be okay, cool, let's do something else, or cool, let's take a break, or do something, that's very, very healthy.
That's true. And it also keeps you from over practicing, which will lead to repetitious.
Keeps you sane.
Yes. Well, that that too. But yeah, it's definitely it keeps you from building bad habits. It keeps you from endless repetition, mindless repetition that doesn't really serve anything. Throughout all of these experiences, what is the one message you hope every pianist would or musician would carry with them?
Strive to express, not to impress. I think there's a big gap and big hole that needs to be filled in terms of like expression, and not like, you know, being I can play 200 notes in 2 seconds, or like, you know, per second. It's really about the instrument is a way for you to express who you are. And that's why we cultivate who we are in the practice room. But strive to express and not to impress. I think that's my general message. And be kind to yourself. And that's how you cultivate joy of practicing in the practice room.
Balik ya. No, but I agree. And then a lot of the times, it's just like sometimes what we forget is just like no matter how enjoyable a performance is, or no matter how enjoyable either a performance or like a competition, or like you get to dress up and you get to play well and all of those type of stuff, it takes so much work behind that in order for you to get to that point. So then if you spend a lot of these times being miserable, I think it's really
shows.
difficult for the music itself to actually be construed as fun, because the preparation takes way longer than the result.
Yes, takes a lot of preparation, but yes, that's pretty much the bottom line.
But I think if you get something out of the preparation, if you get the joy of it, if you get to understand yourself a little bit more, if you learn more about yourself, if you become inquisitive, you become more curious, then you get something out of the practice itself. And it becomes a way for you to become a virtuoso, because then you start to understand those type of things instead of just semoga hari ini hoki mainnya bagus.
Correct. Like, so when you know yourself deep and well enough, you become virtuous in everything that you do. And I think like that's what so like this is a good closure to what we have started. Like then you became a virtuoso. You don't have to play 200 notes in a second for become a virtuous, like a charismatic leader, somebody who's been putting their blood, sweat and tears into a mission their whole life, is virtuous and understanding about like what it is. You became a specialty. And I think like, we have to aim to become a virtuous human instead of a virtuoso pianist, whatever that might mean.
Any other questions, thoughts? Yes.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for the insightful discussions. Maybe for this time, I wanted to ask both of your opinions on one of the students that I'm teaching right now. So I've been teaching this student for almost a year. So he's from another teacher who was taught from another teacher as well. So and then at one point when I received this student, he showed a lot of potential, and then he could play. He just finished his grade 1 ABRSM exam. He got distinction and all, so he showed great potential. And then at one point after I think after the school holiday, this recently, and then when he started the lesson, he was like suddenly like lazy, unmotivated and all. And then when I talked to his mom, she said that she hasn't been able to accompany him practice, and then they are like belum ada pembantu gitu di rumah. Yeah. So and then the student also started to forget his things when he came to the lesson. Like he didn't bring all of his books and all and stuff. Yeah. So right now he is currently preparing for a concert in the music school that I'm teaching in, and then I'm actually not sure how to deal with him anymore in the classroom, because like whenever I teach him like these new passages, like I know that okay, he is, I think, too tired from school as well, and then being unmotivated, and also I started not to give him a lot of passages to learn in the classroom. I start to reduce it so he doesn't feel a lot of pressure, and then I try to accompany him at, like, it's okay, I will guide you and all. But then every time he see like a new passage, his first reaction is always, this is too difficult and all. Like, no, I will guide you, it's okay, like you have done more challenging pieces, than this, it's okay. But then there's always that struggle in the beginning, and right now I'm not sure on how to deal with him, because I talked to his mom about this as well, and then his mom also said like he's also like that at home, but then the parents, according to the student, his parents kind of like pushed him to practice at home, and then like scold him whenever he does not practice and all. But then he spent a lot of more time at home than with me, so yeah, I don't know how to.
How old
do
is he?
10 years old.
Something happened. Obviously, something happened that we might not know, or the parents might not know. I don't know. Maybe something happened at home that we don't know. Because I think this is a protest-like behavior. He's protesting something, maybe not to you, maybe to the parents, but this is a behavior where somebody is a child doesn't agree to something, or maybe he's dealing with change, like not having a house assistant it's a big change. Sometimes, like, because everybody deals differently with change, and even adults, like, change is very difficult to deal with. So something happens. I would try to take away the music and talk about personal things and say, like, how are your grades at school? Like, how are you dealing with, like, challenges at school? Like, is there something that upsets you at home today or yesterday, and try to kind of like find the behaviors, because like a lot of the times, like, these things doesn't have anything to do with you, doesn't have anything to do with the music. It's just they're expressing. But this is the goal, right? Like, they're expressing something. We just need to find a verbiage for them to be able to announce, be able to articulate what they're doing. So there definitely is some challenge. There definitely is some change. And then if you deal with like hard passages, if it's like, this is very difficult, how can I help you make it easier? Like, what can I do so that it would be easier? First, maybe ask, it's difficult, but do you want to do it? Do you want to try to do it, or you don't? You give him the power, then he'll be like, if he doesn't want to do it, then doesn't do it. We'll find something else. But if he does want to do it, and he said yes, then you'll say, like, how can I help you make it easier?
I think also with this type of situation, it puts us teachers in a very uncomfortable
Difficult, yeah.
situation, because we don't know the full picture, but we have to deal with the consequences. He's 10, and usually what I do with my 10-year-olds is that I give them responsibility. So they're old enough in order for them to understand the power of responsibility. So the way that I see it is that this is what I do with my own students. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you can try. I give them the accountability. So the thing is like, they come to the lesson, right? They have to come to the lesson. So the way that I usually do it is that I would tell them, I was just like, you know that there's a concert coming up. You know that you have to play in the concert. That's a non-negotiables, right? That's the terms. So I want to make sure that your concert experience is as smooth as possible. Now, the concert is this many weeks away. If we don't finish learning this music in a certain amount of time, then the chances of you playing well in that concert is going to be lower. So what can we do about this? The idea of it is that they need to understand that we can't make them do things that they have to do on their own. It has to be from them. I usually tell my students, I can't make you practice. I can't make your exam goes well. I can't, because there's no way. I cannot play for you. I cannot practice for you. You have to be the one that wants to do this. I will help you get there, but you have to be the one that wants to do this. Kalau misalnya sampai kayak gitu, biasanya tuh kalau udah kayak gitu anaknya rada nggak enak hati. Karena
guilt tripping and it
well, just a tiny bit, but they have to understand they have to understand that this is a responsibility that they cannot avoid all the time. I mean, there has to be some sort of an accountability, but they have to understand that I feel like effort should be met in order for things to happen.
Yeah, I mean, teaching accountability is definitely not my forte because I am like sometimes like not keeping myself up with accountability. But it's and especially like for younger kids, so it's not my area of expertise. But like it's always sometimes like when a behavior is a certain way, the source is far away. The source is something like that's not connected. So if it doesn't to try to find a problem is just if you're concentrating on that specific thing, you're making a new problem that is branching out from the real source of the problem, whatever it is. Like we don't know what happened at home. We really don't know what happened, and so it's just like take it away. How can you? It's obviously the kid is suffering, right? Because if he was performing before, maybe he's on hearts. He might have like all these voices in his head that's like, why can't I do this? I used to be, and usually then he would be malas because like he would not want to do it because like for him it usually comes so easily. But like right now, like why is it so hard?
That's also another thing. The way some of my kids is that I would tell them that I will not give any challenges that is not going to be possible for them. So they need to understand that they will succeed. There will be efforts to get there, but as a teacher, like, do you trust me? Like, I will not give you anything that is outside of your ability.
It's possible, yeah. Like you could
It's
do it,
always very possible. Another thing too is that sometimes I would tell kids that they're going to another level. They're upping their level. So of course you can always play the easy stuff, but you don't level up. Do you like to play games when it's just one level all the time? Like, it gets boring after a while. This is a way for you to level up. And then so leveling up means that you have to learn new things. You have to put in more effort usually. And then there's always a learning curve. But the idea of it is that they have to trust you, that you are not setting them up for failure. I think that's also another thing. I do agree that there's something going on, but sometimes also kids don't always want to say things.
No, you're not gonna. The goal to do that is not to find out what happens because that mean like meddling. It's just to kind of like take away the attention from it. It really is like take away the attention. Sometimes like you can't really, especially with like a 10-year-old, you can't fill an hour with constant like.
They don't have the bandwidth.
You have to chat with them. You have to talk to them about like certain little things. Like you have to give them their brain a break, and it's really just like taking the attention from things because like I think obviously this kid is kind of hard on himself. I think he's probably that type. So he get discouraged when things doesn't go well, and he said like, see. Like you're not able to do that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe like that. Maybe that's what he's thinking. But just deviate, deflect, and then reassess.
Atau mungkin bisa jadi sih kalau misalnya yang nyiapin bukunya dia tadinya mbaknya. Terus jadi
Mbaknya
makanya
pulang.
bukunya sekarang mbaknya pulang jadi dia sekarang
Yeah,
buku ketinggalan
kehilangan.
atau ini atau itu.
Yeah.
There is one time where my student refuses to go in. Udah nyampe di tempat lesnya, tapi dia nggak mau masuk karena bukunya ketinggalan.
Nggak ada. Yeah.
Jadi they're very like nangis ngereng-ngereng di mobil sampai kayak gimana itu. I have a student like that. Jadi kadang-kadang memang they felt like they're not measuring up to that responsibility that maybe their parents expect of them or.
Another thing that just popped into my head about that is that kids can't regulate their emotions very well, but they do. There's tons of emotions that runs through our mind, body, and spirit on a daily basis, even as an adult. So sometimes like they can't regulate themselves in terms of that, and that's really it's just really an expression. If you really think about it that way, it's a beautiful thing because they're really truly expressing. It's an honest expression. We just can't find out we just really need to find out again, deviate and reassess.
Chill aja normal kok. Okay. I think, yes, we ran out of time. So I just want to say thank you so much for everyone to come here. Thank you so much, Ferdy, for being here.
Thank you so much.
It's really, really fun.
Thank you, House of Piano, for the opportunity. Like, I hope we'll have another chance to discuss further about like things like this, because this is like things that I could talk for days and days and days. So, yes, and it's in my mission to, you know, again, like we need to have a platform to introduce a better way of educating music and bettering ourselves in an effort of practicing.
Perfect. Thank you so much,
Thank
everyone.
you.
We hope to see you in our next event.